I will be back next week for the much tamer sculpt. For the much tamer sculpt. Much tamer sculpt. Much tamer sculpt. Okay, so spoiler alert, I totally lied. Happy holidays, folks, and welcome back to Mind of AK. I'm AK Wright, a writing sculptor, sculpting writer, or whatevs, and I'm jumping headfirst this week into what may be my most challenging sculpt yet, a monster Christmas tree. As you can see, I'm taking a large dowel rod and wrapping the bottom with large sheets of aluminum foil to make a base. Then I'm drilling a hole at the top to put a smaller wood piece in to serve as the crown area of the tree. I had a lot of footage to show how I made the entire tree with foil and ultralight, but somehow the footage got corrupted. But don't worry, I have done a similar process before with Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls, and I'll put the card in the video so you can check it out. Once the ultralight is set, I push in a set of custom painted 20mm glass cabochons on two sides. I'll be doing two characters on the same base. The red eyes belong to Pinnell, and the green eyes belong to his brother Minsley. Next, I'm going to shape out several strands of aluminum wire to serve as branches and place them sporadically across the piece, which I'll detail later with aluminum foil and layers of clay. While the base layer of ultralight is curing in the oven, I decided to further challenge my mental health by attempting something different for a base, while still using a base. This beautiful jar is filled with an amazing substance called plaster Deprimere. It's used to seal holes in walls left by troubled tenants, but you could use it for art as well. For today's project, I'll be making a muddy ground by utilizing that, followed by apple barrel acrylic paints, Mod Podge hard coat sealer, and some glow-in-the-dark clay. In a bowl, I'm scooping 1/2 cup of plaster and shaking out the larger clumps. Then I'm going to add black, tan, and brown paint, a drizzle of Mod Podge, and a 1/2 cup of water, and I'll stir it all together. If you're new to Mod Podge and or plaster, make sure you're following all of the instructions provided on the packaging. After a few minutes of stirring, our Venom group is basically ready to smear all over our base. The plaster normally will set in 20 to 30 minutes, but once I do have it on, I do leave it for an hour. Essentially, I leave it to its own while I'm working on the main piece. And trust me, once this fully hardens, it is on there. I didn't even have to glue the foil to the base. It literally fused to the wood. It's such an amazing product. Now we've reached the sculpting time, and as always, I'll be using our friend Super Sculpey and Original Blend for today's project. Once the entire frame is covered with Sculpey, I work to detail the branches with aluminum foil and clay. I then decide that each should have a wickedly long nose branch, which will be detailed differently, and I work to shape those out the same process as the branches. Next, to add dimension, I add several longer ropes of clay diagonally across the base, blend them in, and then add a thin rope of clay on top to mirror leaves on a tree. Of course, if we're going to call these lads a monster Christmas tree, of course they'd have to have large mouths. I measure the placement of each set of lips, blend them in, and then I will add a set of teeth, which I made off camera on Pinnell's side. Then, in a Painted Manning style audible, I felt it appropriate for Pinnell to have an immensely larger tongue, which is a larger piece of aluminum foil, shaped out, and covered with thicker pieces of clay, blended it into his mouth, and then I heavily detailed to the appropriate, "Bro, why are you like this?" level. A few more branches left to detail before Minsley gets his own mouth, which I made softer with standard teeth and no tongue, and a smaller, thinner nose. About halfway through, I decided my creative throttle was actually high this week, so I decided I would risk that by making a few pairs of custom eye ornaments to go on my tree. These are 5mm glass cabochons that I painted blue, and off camera I also made a teal green set to match. Perfect. I don't want these to be heavy, as I'm concerned heavy ornaments would cause it to tip over. So instead of using original, I'm going to use Super Sculpting Ultralight and aluminum foil to shape out 4 circular orbs. Then I'll wrap the orbs in ultralight and punch the eyes in. And then I'm going to take dollar ornament hangers, which I got at Dollar General. I'm sure you can get it at any dollar store. And I'll push them in. And then I will bake these at 275 degrees for about 20 minutes, and then they'll be good to go. Now that everything is cooled down from their final bakes, it's time to paint, which I had so much fun this week. This week I used all of the following paints for both Polymer and Minsley, which include Apple Barrel Matte Acrylics, Deco Art Matte and Metallic, and Folk Art Color Shifts and one matte. I started painting Minsley this week this light green, which I made from combining equal parts Deco Art and Green Tree, Apple Barrel and Off-White, and a smidge of matte black. With Minsley and the other side down, it's time to focus on Polymer. I wanted his color palette to be darker, so I mixed a tad more matte black and folk art and sediment to my previous color, which garnered me this grayish green, and because I liked it so much, I kept with the synergy and I used it to paint inside Minsley's mouth as well. Now you may have noticed that this is a 3-sided display, and the third side is the same color as Minsley, which I decided to broken matte hardy and decided to paint it as a mountain range, which will connect both Polymer and Minsley. And this color was created by mixing off-white into Polymer's base just to lighten it. Now that all 3 sides have been fully colored, it's time to focus on the accents and detailing, starting with the mountain range side. On both this side and on Minsley, I paint the branches with Apple Barrel Burnt Umber with a dash of black, which I will then dry brush on the side near the branches just for dimensional purposes. Before I dry brush straight folk art sediment on the branches and roots. And then I finish that off by color shifting with folk art green on the leaves and on the sides as well. The roots on the branches will also get a dose of green tree color from Deco Art and some dry brushing as well. Moving on to Minsley, I paint his lips a base color of burnt umber, and then I cause another audible by deciding very late I want him to have a candy cane nose, for reasons I still don't know, and I'm still trying to process and understand. His teeth get a brown wash, and then after the nose is dried from the red apple, I will paint on rains of off-white for the added effect, and then I will dry brush red apple around the base of his nose, and then take the same red and I'll dry brush it on his lips later on, but not before I paint his teeth the same off-white color. For Minsley specifically, my favorite step on him this week was taking watered down color shift paint in green and added in a large amount across his sides. It gives him such a nice sheen and a dewy feel, and I really like how it came out. After I scratched the paint off his eyes with a toothpick, I slide the UV resin inside of his mouth and teeth, harden it with a black light, before I realize I will now have self-induced nightmares well into my 60s. Now let's go back to Polymer and finish his mouth, painting it straight matte black acrylic, and then give his tongue a blend of red apple, burnt umber, and black, and varied shades across it. Before his teeth get painted white, I paint whatever this is standard red, and then all the sides of his branches black, the lips the darkest shade of the tongue color, and then after this the spikes on his nose and roots will get painted the same red before I dry brush it across his tongue and also the branches, followed by a dry brushing of folk art sentiment on his body to bring out the extra details. Lastly, on his mouth, I take top coat nail polish and brush the insides of his mouth, then take a heavy dose of UV resin and put it on the tongue. I don't have a reason for this outside of comparative purposes to see if one would look better than the other, which, in a landslide, it's the tongue. And another, hey, my camera said f it moment, I made our friend a Santa hat out of female leather effect in red and a small bowl of ultralight and white faux fleece. Now that the main attraction is done, let's get to that base that I'm sure you forgot about. Because I actually did. I dry brush a mix of cinnamon and green tree all across the base, and then matte black across the bottom. Then, and another reason I still don't know why, I purchased an exorbitant amount of pine garland. I cut off some of the branches and glue it in a ring pattern all along the edge. I have so much of this stuff now that I guarantee I will not have a reason to use it before the end of the year. But if anyone has any ideas of what I could do with this, let me know in the comments. The final steps this week are gluing some small wooden cubes I painted as presents and glue them in random places all across the base, glue the 2-tree power trip into the dowel, and the last step is adding a string of LED lights all across, which I do paint red and green. And then it's actually time for his moment in the spotlight. I think it's time we give it to them. What do you think? Ladies, gentle nerds, and all my friends, lights, camera, and smaction. As stressful as this project was this week, it was so much fun, and I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and set bell notifications for future updates. Trust me, it all helps. I hope you did enjoy today's project, and just know if you hear this late in the video, I truly appreciate your support. I will be back next week with a much tamer sculpture. I mean that this time. But in the meantime, I hope you all stay blessed, feel loved, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. Take care, everyone, and I will see you next week.